And just like that, we're back on this episode of RADBMX Builds. We're finally putting together my 1983 PK Ripper. Yes, it's got some repop parts, but I don't care, it's my bike. Building it the way I want to build it, with the colors that I like, that baby blue and gold. It's an awesome color combination, absolutely nostalgic for SE bikes. And when I was in high school back in the 80s, I had a baby blue PK Ripper with gold parts, and that's why I'm building this bike, so I could build those memories, keep this bike in my collection, and always have that bike that got away from me when I was in high school back then. Okay, I want to tell you a little bit about this bike and how I came upon it. This bike was a frame and fork set that popped up on eBay, and I wanted it really bad, and then I realized it was sold, but I saw the name of the person that bought it and happened to recognize that it was a friend of mine. So I reached out to him and I said, "Did you just buy that PK Ripper that was on eBay that I showed you?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "I have to have it." And he said, "I will trade you that PK Ripper frame and fork set for your brand new completed, fully built 92 Robinson that I did." And that was a hard one for me because I loved that bike. I put everything into that Robinson, but for me, I had no attachment to it, but I have an attachment to this. So I said, "Yeah, let's do it." So I gave him that Robinson, which he shortly after there sold it, but I held on to this bike. I built this bike about a year or two after that, and I started to realize that every time I wrenched on it, worked on it, touched it, the paint was so brittle it was falling off. So that kind of made me question, is it just bad paint? Was it just fragile for being so old? I just couldn't quite figure it out. So I finally decided, you know what, I'm going to re-powder coat this bike because I want this to be something that's in my personal collection, something I can be proud of, something that doesn't have a bunch of chipped paint that's fallen apart. And it had already been re-decaled, I knew that. So I said, what the heck, let's powder it. So I brought this to powder coat and I had them send off the sample of paint to get an exact match. And here's what I found out. When it went to powder and they went to strip this bike, the forks that were on it had Bondo, and they were chrome underneath that blue paint. So I ran over to powder coat and took a look at them, and they were new, not old original forks that somebody bondoed over the baloney cut, covering the SE stamping and making it look like smooth baloney cut forks. I was pissed. I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty mad about that, because if you know anything about those old school forks, they're very hard to find, and if you do find them, they're at a terrible price. So I wasn't very happy about it, but then I relaxed and I reminded myself, this bike is for me. It's not for a customer. I'm not selling it. I just want some landing gear forks on a bike that I can have that's mine. So I jumped online and bought a brand new pair of forks that didn't have Bondo all over them. I brought them over to my powder coater, and he powder coated them to match the frame. So this is an original 83 frame with new school forks. Like I said, I'm okay with that because there's repop parts on this bike, and if I'm fine with that, I'm fine with the forks. It's not a big deal. Like I said, my bike, I'm not trying to sell or pass off that this is 100% original PK Ripper, because it is not. Nothing about this bike is 100% original other than the frame itself. There were no parts and components that came with it, so nothing's original to begin with. So we're moving on. I got the bike back from powder coat and I'm really happy. They do a really good job. The quality is amazing. The color's perfect. And I've been collecting some parts, changing out some things. Gold is a very hard anodized color to match if you don't get it all from the same place. So I'm using the Pro Neck seat clamp, I'm using the Pro Neck power disc, and I'm using the Pro Neck stem on this bike. Sorry, I had to look. So those are amazing color, dark, deep gold. Now, some of the other gold I have on the bike was a real light gold, and I didn't like that, so I decided to swap things out with some silver. And if you saw earlier pictures of this bike when I built it the first time, we'll call that version 1. I had some Pro BMX all gold cranks and sprocket and chainring. Those are great, but not quite the look I wanted, and I had a set of Redline Flights laying around. So I went ahead and decided to use the Redline Flight cranks with the Pro Neck power disc, and then started swapping out parts after that, like pedals and so on and so forth, so it matched a little bit better. I'm really happy with the parts at this point. So version 2.0 is getting ready to happen, but first let me show you the parts and show you the bike, and then we'll get into the build. Okay, you can see how beautiful that baby blue fresh powder coat is. And these pads, these brand new splatter paint pads from Flight, are the perfect accent piece for this. Ironically, in the 80s, my baby blue PK Ripper had black pads with light blue splatter paint, and I'm going to insert a photo so you can see that. Now, talking about the Pro Neck pieces, this is the stem that I have, the Pro Neck seat post clamp, and the Pro Neck power disc. Also, the Redline Flight cranks, and I got a Redline decal in baby blue. I'm using baby blue chainring bolts with a silver chainring, gold MX1000s with a baby blue cable, and Dicomp MX gold lever. Now, what I swapped out was the chainring for a silver one and the pedals. These are not KKTs, these are the new MKS BM7s. So my blue Velo seat is a really good match to my Amy grips and my Comp 3 style tires that are on the wheels for this bike. So I got a little dark blue, a little light blue, got some gold, and then the Tongi headset in gold as well, which is gonna look really good on there. So these are the parts and components. Brand new decals and a gold chain, and that's what I'm working with. It's going to take about 30 minutes to probably build this bike. It's already been built once before. I know everything fits on it, so fingers crossed it goes smoothly, and we'll be able to get this thing together shortly. And I'm going to film a little bit of the progress for you, but I'm going to spare you the entire build, and we'll get this bike put together and we'll take it for a ride out to the beach. Okay, it's been about 15 minutes. I want to give you a little update because these colors are looking so good together. I've got on quite a few of the components so far: headset, bottom bracket, cranks, stem, things like that. But check it out. The Pro Neck stem, Tongi headset, Redline cranks, and the Pro Neck power disc, and the Pro Neck seat clamp. So far, I'm absolutely loving that. Comment down below if you like it too. I'm going to get back to work, give you another update in a moment. We're making really good progress, but right here in the middle of it, I wanted to take a moment and share a few things with you. Some of the tools that I'm using. Park tool, got a bunch of really good stuff. Pedal wrenches, different size wrenches. This I use almost continuously. One of the best things you can get. And then the grease that I use for all my bearings or threaded parts. You can find all of these in the link below in my Amazon store. So if you need any bike parts, a bike stand, anything like that, just click that link down below, go to my Amazon store and check out what I have in there, and thank me later. So let's move on to the bike. Quick little look, it's almost all together, but I want to talk about this rear brake a little bit. It's a Repop Dicomp MX1000 with the baby blue van brake pads and a little blue end cap for the cable. But what I want to show you is these spacers on the back that I found. I don't remember where I got them. I think from Australia. They weren't in the US, I know that. But on these old PK Rippers, the brake bridge back here sits down pretty low. It's not flat across. So you need those spacers to bring that brake up high enough to clear these frame tubes and then to work properly on the rear rim. So if you have a PK Ripper and you're having brake issues with clearance, find these spacers. They come in colors, silver, I think they came in blue, gold, and red. So I found these about 1.5 years ago. I don't exactly remember where I got them from because I've had them for so long, but it's just something different and unique with this bike, and something you should know about if you plan on building a PK Ripper. I've seen people flip the brakes upside down and run them upside down on these bikes too. That's not the way I did it back then. It's not the way I'm going to do it today. But I'm going to put the brakes on, then we're going to give you a reveal of this bike. Okay, assembly is done, but I'm not done with the bike. The last step is going to be decals, but I want to show you the bike naked without decals now that it's all together. Let me know what you think down below of it so far. We're only a few moments out from being completely done with this build, But I know you don't want to hear me talk. I know you want to see what it looks like. This is without decals, but fully assembled. Okay, now that you've seen it without, let's put them on, and I'm going to show you this bike out in the sun, fully complete with decals, and then we're going to go for a ride. Lastly, I want to give a shout out to ProNeck and Flight. Without those parts, this bike wouldn't look like that. They weren't sponsors of this build, but I'm a longtime customer and friends of theirs. So thank you, Flight, and thank you, ProNeck, for such rad parts. Okay, if you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe. Please do that. Click that button. That's all I ask, so I can keep bringing you rad content. This is going to end this video of my 83 PK Ripper, and as always, stay rad.